Hello and welcome to the WrestleBlast Podcast. My name's David Cardiff, and joining me as ever is Andre Wakefield. I don't have any nicknames this week, I'm afraid, dude. Primarily because I finished this today with Christmas and everything. Merry Christmas and all the rest of it. I
think I have a nickname.
Okay, go for it.
Hi, everyone. Since you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see our faces for the first time. So, hi. I'm the instant classic, Andre Wakefield.
Oh.
And my co-host is the Irish submission machine, David Cardiff.
Nice. I thought you were going to call me like the Arctic Fox.
Who was that?
Misty. Misty the Arctic Fox, a.k.a. the Rat.
The Rat. Man.
Yeah.
I thought I was like on drugs during that match or something.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. Our show today is it's not Armageddon, it's Turning Point 2007, TNA Turning Point to be exact, 2007. This took place a couple of weeks before our last review, which was Armageddon 2007, and this was on the December 2nd back in 2007. So if you did listen to the last one, obviously we're not going to be doing a go back in time section and audio, video games and all the rest of it section, but you can go back and listen to that other show and get that little fix there. But Merry Christmas, dude. How has your Christmas been? What did you get up to, I guess?
Well, I'm sure you've heard of Omicron, the new COVID variant.
The
running
transforming
wild.
one, yes.
The U.S. government doesn't know what it's doing, as always. And we got snow like crazy, so we can't really go anywhere anyway. So we just kind of stayed at home, watched some movies. We watched the Christmas Chronicles. Came out a couple years ago, I think, with Kurt Russell. It was pretty decent. I've never seen it before. Me and my family, we just kind of been watching Christmas movies every weekend. Some classics, some recent ones. So yeah, it's okay.
Nice.
It could be worse, but it's always good. No Die Hard. We did Home Alone, which is the PG Die Hard.
Yeah, you can have that one, yeah.
We actually did the first two.
Yeah.
And we did National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which I've never seen
classic.
before.
Yeah.
My parents have never seen that either, so for that I was pretty
Wow.
fresh. And then we did Elf, which is a classic, but my dad wanted to watch it, so...
Oh, yeah. We didn't actually watch Elf this year ourselves. I'm kind of surprised. But yeah, we did pretty much all of those, apart from National Lampoons. I think the kids are a little bit too young for that to understand the humour in it, but we did Home Alone 1 and 2, and my wife and I decided to try and watch late one night Die Hard for the umpteenth time, and we got about halfway through it. So definitely the season of Christmas tiredness, I'll call it. Probably too much alcohol and too much food.
Oh, I don't drink, so I don't have a problem with that.
You'll never suffer that, yeah. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend having a skin full of drink on Christmas Eve and then getting up the next day really, really early, which is what we did, and suffered the entire day. So I had to have a nap on Christmas Day. I feel so old. I had to have an actual nap on Christmas Day with my youngest. So, yeah, well, that's good. So, very traditional sort of Christmas, just you and the folks gathered around a table.
Yeah,
and
very basic, very low-key, but it's okay. I appreciate the small things. We still got New Year's coming up, so that's my mom's favorite holiday, so this should be exciting. We're not doing anything special, but there's like concerts on TV, and we can pop some bottles and dance around in the living room, that kind of stuff.
Very good, very nice. Yeah, we'll probably be doing the same thing ourselves here. It's a very traditional sort of Christmas here. I have our in-laws, or my in-laws, come over. Paula's mum and dad come around, and they spent the night on Christmas Eve, and then get up and see the kids, opening their presents in the morning. And it was a very, very nice Christmas. A very larger sort of family to what I grew up with in a single-parent household. So it's nice, I have to say. And New Year's, we probably doing the same thing. We'll probably try and keep the kids up as late as they can stay up, and then probably celebrate with a few drinks and stuff. And I'm looking forward to it, I have to say. So what date's this? The 29th today. So yeah, just 2 days time we're going to be New Year's Day. So not bad at all. And I suppose just moving on to because as I say, we're not going to have any audio or games section. How quickly did you get the pay-per-view sort of consumed this time around? Obviously, this being our second Christmas pay-per-view.
I personally prefer to watch not just pay-per-views, but movies and everything all at once, because I feel like I'm taking in the whole show, like I'm in the same mood the whole time. Because if you watch it in pieces, I feel like yesterday I'm in a better mood than today, so it just different vibes every day. But if I watch it all at once, I feel like I can be more fair to every segment and to the entire show. If we ever get to the more recent WrestleManias, I will not be doing that, but anything that's 3 hours or less, I don't mind doing it all at once.
Yeah, 4 hours is not something I could sit through. This was, 3 hours or just under 3 hours, I think?
It's like 2:48 or something like that.
2:48, yeah, it sounds about right. So it wasn't too bad. I did do it in one session. I think this is the first pay-per-view I've done in one day in a long time, but that's primarily just because we've been watching slightly lengthier, or at least, more boring shows. There was a lot of goofy stuff on the show, which we're going to get into.
Before we get started, I want to address the elephant in the room. This show had a major false advertisement. There was a major no-show on here.
Okay.
And I'm talking about, of course, Judas Messias. He is on the very front of the poster. He's all over the arena. And he's not on the show at all. He's not even mentioned once. So what is going on?
I don't know. To be honest with you, dude, I completely forgot. I do remember looking at a picture and going, oh, that's Judas Messias. I guess, was it Mil Muertes, isn't he?
Mil Muertes, yeah.
Mil Muertes, as he is now. And completely forgot.
It's just so bizarre, because even on the rails, on the railings where the fans are,
yes,
there are posters of it, and it's just him, like, right in the front. It's him in Black Rain.
That's right. There's 3 submissions from this card, Judas Messias being one, which I never did work out what happened to, because I remember I was looking at Wikipedia earlier and it never mentioned anything, and that's, to be honest with you, that's the extent of my examination of this pay-per-view in great depth came from that, because everything that you need to know really it happens towards the end of the show. But no Mil Muertes at all, which is a strange one. No Rhino, obviously, because he gets injured, and they sort of briefly gloss over that, so we get a Raven, and then we also get Eric Young sort of substituting a match later on in the card for somebody else, which we'll better get into. I guess we'll save that towards the end. But yes, so our event today takes place in Orlando, Florida, in the Impact Zone, which is basically a soundstage at Universal Studios. I know you're not really a sort of follower of the TNA back at this stage, were you?
Nope, this is actually the first ever full show that I've watched of TNA.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you sort of felt about it then, because it's not the best TNA show in the world to go into. I'm sure you've heard about the fantastic X Division matches and some of the sort of glory years of TNA in 2004, or even going back to sort of 2003 and 2002. But this is this is an odd one.
TNA, like, the elevator pitch for it is 2000 WCW with ECW budget. That's it. Just sounds like complete garbage, but I think you'll be surprised by my overall thoughts on it.
Excellent. The Impact Zone, just to give you a quick synopsis of this place, this is in Universal Studios, Orlando, Florida. They are limited. This is what they would, it's a sound stage, they're limited to how many people they can have in it, which is about 900 is the capacity, so I'd say it's probably underneath that. They basically used to film every episode of Impact and every pay-per-view for the large portion of them in this one arena. So if you're watching Impact and then you're watching a pay-per-view, you're pretty much just going to be watching the same thing because it's the same stage setup. They never really tended to go too far outside of the sort of standard setup of having, the 2 ramps and then the ring in the octagonal ring in the middle. So in case you're wondering, it's always the same place, at least for this stage. They would move on from the sound stage and they would go to sort of slightly larger arenas, but ultimately it didn't really pay out, so they just came back to Universal because they had some kind of weird deal with Universal. Universal, they basically told TNA, you can't charge people to come into this place because it's part of the Universal sort of theme park or series of buildings that are, you know, made up of that park. So they couldn't charge anyone any money for coming into it. So it's basically a free show if you're at Universal. The only way they could make money is essentially by selling merchandise or by selling VIP tickets. And the VIP tickets would basically get you into meeting wrestlers and getting like a photo taken with them and that sort of thing. I don't know how much that would have cost, but I would imagine that they would probably stung you for a couple of $100 at the maybe the minimum. And yeah, so it's kind of a very sort of low-key arena. So when we're doing our awards later, you know, spoiler alert, I haven't gone too mad on that. But the arena itself is very classic, and you may notice that the baby faces come out from one side and heels come out from the other side. Did you notice that at all, or did that sort of not register at all?
They come from different, like in AEW does the same thing, but they're all on the same stage, so they either come from left or right. In TNA, they're like on opposite ends of the arena, so sometimes it's hard to tell because the way the cameras are positioned, you think like, oh, it's the same one. Sometimes it's hard to tell. But
it is, yeah.
They had the right idea, I think.
I definitely think Tony Khan took that idea and had it set up on the stage, and it works way, way better in AEW than it does in TNA. Because you're right, it's confusing. You don't know what side they're coming from because the camera's sort of flipping between these two different, very, you know, exactly the same sort of setup on both sides. So it's hard to know, well, obviously that's the bad guy entrance that person's coming out of, and we all obviously know who the bad guys are. They're told, you know, you're told by the announcers that they're a bad guy essentially for storylines. But yeah, I thought it's kind of worth to note that AEW seems to have borrowed that sort of theme, which I like. I like having the bad guys come out of a separate locker room area, because if you're trying to tell a story with people, you know, wrestling, you've got to sort of really make it, to me, black and white of this guy's a bad guy, this guy's a good guy, and they're going to fight, you know?
Yeah, in wrestling, it's always silly when two guys hate each other, but they come out of the same door, like 30 seconds apart. Like, why didn't they beat each other up right before, you know? It kind of breaks the immersion. But yeah, the two tunnels are a good idea.
Too right. And what about the finding the pay-per-view? Because obviously we've had to rely on the WWE network previously, or YouTube. Did you navigate the TNA or the Impact Wrestling website okay and subscribe to the content, or were you able to find it somewhere else?
Navigating their website was like a whole voyage. It took me a good 20 minutes to figure out what to do. Maybe I'm just stupid, I don't know, but this was just a disaster. I was trying to be a cheapskate and get a free trial of some sort, because, you know, every subscription service has a free trial, whether it's 30 days, 7 days. Well, Impact doesn't appear to have that, at least not on their website, so I had to Google for it, and there are links to websites. Like, when you Google it, it pops up. So I click on the website, and it basically explains what Impact Plus is, and then there's a link, try for 30 days. So I click on the free trial. It takes me to the Impact Plus website. It just plays whatever live footage is on at the time, because they have like this constant like live feed going on of whatever random show they're playing, and it tells me to subscribe, but there's no free trial. So I was trying to figure this out. I was in Reddit pages trying to figure it out. Some people are saying you need coupons, and I'm just like, what is this? Like, why is this so hard? So I was like, you know what? Last night I just said, screw it. I need to watch this pay-per-view because I can't find it on YouTube or anything. So I just subscribed for $8 a month, and I'll probably cancel once the month is over, because I don't really plan on watching TNA in the immediate future, but I am interested in resubscribing in the future.
Yeah, I think that it's $7.99, I think, which is about £5 in sort of Great British Pound, or there or thereabouts. It's not the best website. It's not the best streaming service, because the interesting thing I found was that, and I've probably got a few notes on this as we go through, they still have advert breaks in it. I got one advert, and then I just had like a bunch of like black bars in the timeline of the video, And so every so often there'd be a match and then it would just fade to black and then fade back in. So they haven't actually used the DVD versions, which I probably own the DVD of this at one stage. They've actually used the live version that they streamed at the time with adverts, which is really weird. And it's obviously in, I think, a standard definition. I don't think this is an HD either.
I think it's 720p, but maybe that's not even correct because it's obviously in a 4:3 format, and it has the TNA things on the side. So maybe it is only like 480p, but they just said, you know what, fuck it, 720, because you can still upload a 4080p and whatever resolution you want. It doesn't mean it's going to be in that resolution, you know.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's available. You can get it. So if you're looking to watch it, it's probably the only source I found as well. I did have a good look to see if I could get it for cheap, shall we say, aka free.
I found every Turning Point except for this one.
Exactly. Turning Point 2009, I think, is on YouTube that you can watch. But
I found 06, 08, 09, and yeah.
07 you have to pay the big bucks for. They weren't putting that out for free.
Well, you got to pay to see Scott Hall. and Judas Macias.
And Judas Macias, yeah. Okay, so the show immediately sort of starts just off like in the back. You don't even get a show open; it just opens in the back, and it's AJ Styles.
Literally, you click on the video, and it just immediately AJ Styles is just yelling at Kurt Angle, and I'm like, wait, did I accidentally like fast forward to this? What is going on?
This is such a weird way to start a pay-per-view, but yeah, you've got AJ Styles shouting with Kurt Angle there, Karen Angle's there, and Tyson Tomko are backstage arguing, and AJ's complaining about the match tonight and them needing Christian Cage for their team as they are facing Samoa Joe's team featuring Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. And AJ wants the advantage, and Christian Cage is apparently it. It's very sort of, you know, I'm sort of writing my notes, and I was using my keyboard this time, and like, hold on, AJ, what's going on here? What's happening here? I was literally just sort of sitting down with a cup of tea. I was like, what is happening here? Where's the show open? But yeah, we get this sort of weird juxtaposed opening angle to start off with things, and we would cut backstage for this drama that would continue throughout the night. So it sort of starts to make a bit more sense towards the end, but they lie to you from the very, very beginning, which we'll get to later. So pay-per-view opens with a shaky metal version of Silent Night, whilst the various matches are sort of shown and built through a video package, which I quite like. And obviously I love the Barry Scott voice, you know, the big deep voice of TNA. He's obviously passed away now, I think, but I loved his video montages that would have his voice and stuff. What did you think of the initial?
This was a good opening. I mean, it's nothing fancy, but it got to the point, and yeah, I liked it. It got me hyped for the show. Yeah, a lot of blood, so much blood in that video.
Oh, yeah, it's a weird. Again, you know, the WWE did it with Armageddon 2007, and we were kind of confused by this Armageddon setting, and it's Christmas time. This one leans a little bit more towards Christmas, but at the same time, it's like Christmas covered in blood. And so everything is blood splatter. All of the little, you know, the little signs they have popping up on screen, the little PNG files, they're all like blood splatters. It's different.
They probably, maybe they forgot to do a Halloween themed pay-per-view, so they said, you know what, we're just going to combine Christmas and Halloween.
Get the clip art out. We need to have some nice little blood splatter effects going on the screen. And Mike Tenay and Don West are our commentators tonight, and they run down. Mike rundown's half the card, and then Don West runs down the rest of the card. And Don West, I just seen announced today or yesterday, he's battling cancer for the second time. I didn't know that. Massive. Yeah, just seen it on Twitter. I'm a massive fan of Don West. A lot of people gave him shit for like his TNA run because he's basically a salesman. You know, I think that was what his job was before. So he's very sort of, oh, I can't believe it. You know, he's very loud. But like, I love him because he's excited. And he's a great sort of, I guess, color commentator in a kind of way. He's not really, but he's basically the Tony Schiavone of TNA because he didn't know a lot about a lot of the moves. He didn't, and even when I was watching back in the day, you'd hear Don going, what the hell was that? And he'd be so excited, and he'd be honestly just reacting with honest emotions. He's not produced, he's just giving you what he sort of feels. And I think that that is something that works really, really well in AEW, because you've got Tony Schiavone having to sort of catch up with his love of wrestling, sort of like we are. And I think that makes a big difference. So I was a big fan of Mike Tenay and Don West. So yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Don West. He's say what you want about him, but he's very passionate, and he's given it his all to his job. And there's actually a moment later on which almost had me jump out of my seat, thanks to Don West commentary. We'll get to it in one of the later matches.
Okay. Well, we kick things off with a 6-man tag team table match. Team 3D, Brother Ray and Brother Devine, aka the Dudley Boys, with Johnny Devine versus the Motor City Machine Guns with X Division champion Black Machismo, Jay Lethal. And Mike tells us immediately that Team 3D has stolen Jay's championship, the X Division title. And the feud is buried in Team 3D's disdain for the X Division. And essentially, they want to destroy it. So they're picking on the smaller guys. That's essentially the story of this match. And these guys are standing up for themselves. Brother A gets on the mic really weirdly at the start and just tells everyone that they suck, including the audience, which I was kind of confused by. I thought he was going to do his like typical, Bubba Ray sort of, shtick that he would do, where he would take it a little bit too far and get loads of heat. But it was just kind of like a one-liner. So nothing, no points for Bubba.
What about Jay Lethal's hair? It was so weird looking.
He did this, yeah.
He had like a Justin Bieber haircut, but he's a black man, so obviously his hair is structured a little differently. Doesn't look right at all. It's
kind of like he found hair straighteners, and they were free, and he just ran with it. I can't remember if it was fully at this stage. Was it the triangle haircut that he had? Because he at one stage, so he has this. It's like a cartoon character triangle haircut, kind of trying to look like Macho Man. That's obviously what he's trying to go for.
Yeah.
But it is bizarre, and then he had a blonde streak in it and stuff, and it's very strange. His hair's definitely gotten better over the years.
Well, he doesn't have any now anymore.
True, yes, he decided to get rid of it, that's right. Alex and Johnny start. Nice stomps from Johnny before Alex's speed takes over. Alex Shelley, obviously. There's a lovely trifecta of slingshot elbow drops and leg drops from Motor City Machine Guns and Lethal. And then my next note just says in capital letters, advert! Fucking paid for this.
Yeah, I wrote commercial break on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, this is you're getting the live feed version, but they've kept one advert in. The rest are all just fade to blacks, so it's really
for me this weird. Was a fade to black also.
Yeah, no, I got an advert.
Oh,
I couldn't believe it. I think it must be region locked.
Could be,
so maybe they've removed them in America and they've kept. I only got one advert, but yeah, I got one advert here, which I was fuming about. Devon and Sabin are up next, and Chris does a sweet Hurricane Rana before tagging Lethal in. Lethal's power slammed, and then we get Ray in to slow the action down, way down. Great arm drag by Ray over the top by Lethal to Ray, who then sprints back in. There's a massive rock bottom by Ray to Lethal. Motor City Machine Guns jump in, and the match sort of breaks down. And then, I think I have a note on this later, but the match breaks down, but then it's a tables match. I don't know if you caught this. I completely forgot about halfway through this match that this was a tables match, and I was like, okay, they're tagging this guy in, they're tagging that one in, and then they all seem to remember, hold on, this is a tables match, we can do whatever we want.
That's my biggest complaint about this match, is why are they tagging in a table match? WWE does this a lot, and even AEW has done this, where they have a street fight or a table match or something, and they're just treating it like a normal match until one moment everyone just gets into the ring and everybody just brawls, and then they're like, oh yeah, no DQ, we can do whatever we want. And same thing happened here. Very silly.
Oh, it totally is, and it just caught me off guard. I was just like, hold on, this is a tables match. But there you go.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
They keep calling Devon, but isn't it Brother Devin? Because it's spelled Devon. Shouldn't it be Devin?
I think it's always been spelled Devon. Maybe it's spelled D-Von. I'm not sure.
In WWE, it's D-VON.
Ah, okay, so they've got around that by putting a D-E in then, so it's D-E-V-O-N, yes, that's right.
Oh, okay, for some reason I thought they just changed Devon to Devin.
Yeah,
that makes more sense then.
It's kind of sad to see that, like, they don't own, you know, the gimmick, essentially. You know, they don't own the Dudley Boys that was bought by, obviously, WWE when they bought ECW. And so, unfortunately, they both lost the right to use that outside of WWE. They did their best. Team 3D is an okay name, but and everyone knows who they are, so I guess it's not really... It doesn't really matter. But it's kind of sad to sort of see these guys have been wrestling for years. They should be allowed to sort of take that as their property, but guess Paul Heyman came up with it. 3D slide a table across the ring, so all along the mat, and then it hits Lethal on the other side. The guns, cool. Yeah, I kind of liked it. It was different, although Jay Lethal had to wait a couple of seconds for that to happen, so he should have been prepared. The guns drop kick another table into Team 3D. And then the guns sandwich Devine with some stiff offense before Team 3D interject with a 3DB, the reverse 3D, to Sabin. Lethal's back on the apron, and then I've got my note here, says, I'm confused, is this a tag match, a normal tag match, or a table match? But everyone's in the ring, so it's Tornado, I don't really understand. So Lethal ducks a spear by Ray, sending Ray into his own table in the corner, which obviously doesn't count. Divine's lured into drop kicking a table the guns are holding on the outside, sort of horizontally. They're holding onto it for ages, by the way. But the guns move, letting him sort of slide underneath the table and then sort of lock him into, like, in between the rail and the ring, and then slam him with the table. It's kind of cool. And then Devon intervenes and sets Shelley up on a table against the rail, but Shelley dodges, and Divine, who'd moved onto the top turnbuckle, dives from the ring into it himself, which again doesn't count. Back in the ring, Devon saved from going through a table by Ray. Lethal accidentally hits referee Slick Johnson, and while the cameraman misses both the guns diving out of the ring on either sides, Lethal puts Divine through a table in the ring to win the match, but Team 3D swap the guys around with Slick Johnson while he's out. So the ref wakes up and he thinks Divine's won the match in 14 minutes and 59 seconds, being the second longest match on the card. What did you think of this one? And then I'll give you my thoughts.
This one had good action. I really enjoyed the action, especially from Motor City Machine Guns. I'm pretty much brand new to all these guys, except for the Dudley Boys, of course. I've never even heard of Johnny Devine. He looks like a miniature Test to me. Test from 1998, I want to say, 99, whenever he debuted with the shorts.
Yeah.
But anyways, like I said, the action was great. The finish was really stupid. I did not like that. If they made a point that the ref didn't see it, the table break doesn't count. So why does it count when the ref sees Johnny Devine on top of Jay Lethal? The ref still didn't see the table break, so why does it count? He should have just said, I didn't see it, I don't know what happened, you gotta break another one. But whatever, I didn't like the finish, so that brought it down for me a bit. Also, the camera work was pretty bad in this match. They missed quite a few spots. You can even hear the commentators screaming, and I'm like, what are they screaming about? Like, I don't know what's going on. And then there's one spot where they showed a replay of I think, Johnny Devine falling through a table. But first of all, you couldn't see it when he did it, and then when they showed the replay, he still couldn't see it. So it was so stupid. So yeah, that's what I thought. What about you?
Yeah. I thought it was confusing. I was completely taken off guard, or caught off guard, by the fact that it's like, what's going on here? Is it a tables match? I'm pretty sure they mentioned at the start it's a tables match. The action was okay. I agree with you. You know, I had a couple of points there, but the cameraman sort of missing. I think it's when Motor City are sort of diving out of the ring, the cameraman completely misses all of it somehow. Yeah, there's various points in the match where I just got really confused. The action seemed pretty good, but it was confusing, long, and a complete bollocks finish to the match. I really wasn't happy with it. Motor City Machine Guns are amazing. You know, when I got into TNA and I saw these guys, I was like, holy shit, this is a different world compared to what was on WWE in that sort of that era. And for me, they're one of the greatest tag teams of all times. So I'm thrilled to see them on the podcast at last. I think it's sort of well overdue that they get a sort of nice little mention here. I thought they stole the match, but Lethal was right there alongside them. Johnny Devine, take him or leave him. He was part of a really god awful stable with Raven called
The Gathering.
No, it's before this. It's called something else. Something to do with. Well, it's not. I've got contraception in my head. It's not contraception. It's serotonin. That's it. It's serotonin.
Oh, okay.
And it's one where basically Devine and I think Jimmy Rave's in it as well, and they're sort of subservient to Raven, who beats them with like a kendo stick, and he's in like this white suit. It's really god awful. Him breaking
Raven's
out in his
Flock 7.0.
Oh, it's Raven's rejects basically. And it's really weird. So yeah, Johnny Devine. Anyway, he's blah. He's just a meh sort of wrestler to me. Team 3D, okay, but they're very large at this stage. Bubba Ray, or whatever you want to call him, he is ballooned at this stage. He's well out of shape, but yeah.
Still with Devon, he had a big old belly.
Quite a few boys on this show today had a big old belly, but we'll get to more of them.
Most of them are from ECW that I noticed.
Yeah, quite a lot. Yeah. So what did you rate this match then?
As much as we crapped on it just now, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 because it was still kind of exciting for a kickoff. It reminded me of that tables match from Survivor Series that we did a little while ago. Although that one was much better and a lot more logical, I think. So yeah, 3 above average, slightly above average.
Okay. I went slightly below just because I really got confused and didn't like the finish, so I get 2.5 stars.
Okay.
Which isn't too far behind you. To the back, Samoa Joe and Kevin Nash are with Crystal backstage. She comments on Hall not being here for the reunion of the Outsiders. And where is he? Hall says, oh, not Hall. Nash says, don't worry, he'll be here. We're going into the and before going into the reason why he's in, he basically says, and I'm just double checking my notes to make sure I've got this right. Essentially, what Nash says he's in TNA for is to bang Karen Angle, Kurt's wife. Did you hear what he said here? As is like before Samoa Joe sort of got stuck into him.
Yeah, Nash still doing the big sexy gimmick, even though he looks like he's about 70 years old.
He looks like Big Santa at this stage. He's got the grey hair. It's
his hair, man. He needed to do something with it. That hair aged him like 15 years from his WCW days.
Oh no! The hair that aged him the most was his 2011 WWE return when he came back with dyed black hair.
Oh yeah,
that was the one that really aged him. I thought he looked respectable for his age, but he's basically talking like 1998 Kevin Nash about hanging and banging, and it's just really weird. He's like, yeah, I like Karen. She might like a bit of me, and it's like, what? Like, she's married, dude, and you're married. What's going on here?
You can take the man out of a high school, but you can't take high school out of the man.
100%.
Kevin Nash is a 62-year-old high school jock, even to this day.
Absolutely. And I just loved, because this is the theme for the night, Samoa Joe basically calls him out on it, and is just furious that this guy's having fun and having a bit of a joke, and it's basically a precursor of something we get much later. But I just loved Samoa Joe in this, and it was nice seeing Nash being wacky Nash for a short amount of time, because Nash is he's going to get his balls cut off him later. But
I just have a question. Did people really pay money to watch Scott Hall in 2007? I cannot imagine a single person seeing a Scott Hall in the main event and thinking, wow, I need to buy this pay-per-view. That's just so ridiculous.
we will get on to Scott Hall, and I don't think anyone in the fan base, I think the nostalgia's there, but I think it was more that he was a big name, and that's what they were trying to do, is bring in bigger names so that they could increase their stock. You know, that's why you've got Booker, you've got Kurt Angle, you've got Kevin Nash, you've got Scott Steiner. You know, you had Jeff Jarrett, who's not on this show, but, you know, was
Sting
one of the sort of...
Jeff
and Sting, Hardy. Jeff Hardy. I mean, and even Rhino and Raven, and Christian. Christian, yeah. It sort of shows the cards from a very early stage in TNA's sort of 2005, I'd say, when Raven came into it. You know, we had Jeff in 2004, I think, as well. And they sort of leaned towards having that superstar that they thought was like, oh, it's because he's in WWE, he's got a massive name, he's going to translate really, really, really well to our fan base. But as I said in like the last show, I think it was the last one, you know, Jeff Hardy wasn't liked when he first came in, at least by the audience that was in attendance, because he's not a TNA original. You know, you had Samoa Joe, you had AJ Styles, you had Jay Lethal, you had the Motor City Machine Guns, you had all these young guys that nobody had really seen before, but were able to do stuff that not even Jeff Hardy could do. And it just takes away from the natural product that they had. And so this is kind of, you know, this was my sort of feelings at the time. I was like, I don't really understand a lot of guys here, and tonight we get sort of like a vocal outburst by somebody there. So next, bring, help me, there's someone in my house. We get Roxxi Laveaux coming out to her VKM theme. This is obviously for the ODB and Roxxi Laveaux tag match versus Angelina Love and Velvet Sky. Have you heard of VKM, the Voodoo Kin Mafia, before?
I've heard of that. I don't know anything about it, but I've heard that the initials are supposed to be like Vincent Kennedy McMahon, kind of like a parody of that.
Correct, yes.
That's as far as I know. I know that Billy Gunn is in it, right?
Yep, BG James and Kip James, yep.
Yeah, but so, I have no idea where Roxxi fits into this.
Nobody does. She's the voodoo queen, apparently. She's not, obviously. But she would come out sort of shaking and sort of... I have no idea. I don't know what this was. I remember her being on one of the first pay-per-views I think she debuted on with the other two guys, BG James and Kip James, and I was just left confused by it, and I don't know... unless I really looked into it, I don't really care for her that much enough to look into it. But it is very weird. I don't really get the character. It doesn't really work.
I don't really know anything about her, and she was really weird. I've actually been watching Pirates of the Caribbean, all the movies this past week, and I feel like she came out straight from the set of those movies with her outfit.
You might be right though, because I know that there's they've got voodoo characters in that as well. So maybe they're trying to borrow from that.
Yeah, it could be. I did find her very strangely attractive.
Okay, wow.
She was a unique. She wasn't like your typical blonde, big boobs, Trish Stratus.
ODB?
No, more like Trish Stratus, Stacy Keibler, Tori Wilson type. She wasn't like those girls.
Yeah, she's the complete opposite of their opponents, who Angelina and Sky get the stripper entrance compared to and
ODB the cameramen finally do their jobs. They don't miss anything during this match.
The cameramen are pretty much right up their holes. So yeah, Angelina and Roxxi start after Sky is intimidated by Roxxi, the voodoo queen. ODB is tagged in and spanks Sky and mocks her. Sky then wedgies ODB into the stratosphere. And eventually ODB breaks free and then asks the referee to spank her. And then ODB wedgies the referee. And my next note here just says, what the fuck is going on?
I laughed out loud when she wedged the ref. I was shaking my head during this match because it started out, the first 10 seconds were pretty good. Yes, and then it became very Vincified. This turned into a Vince McMahon special very quickly.
Either Vince McMahon or Vince Russo. It just this is one of their one of their ideas anyway. There's a roll up by Sky while this bollocks goes on, but ODB gets out. Roxy's tagged in next to work with Sky. I get a fade to black here. ODB and Roxxi put Sky into a tree of woe, and ODB stomps a mud hole in her hole. Then ODB sits on top of the turnbuckle while they ram Sky into her cooch. Angelina comes in to clean house, and they destroy Roxxi with a super kick to win the match in 6 minutes and 2 seconds. This was this gets them a title. This gets them a title opportunity at a knockout opportunity at Victory Road. This was a lot of fun, this match, but it was complete just mayhem. I didn't really know where to look. I didn't know what I should be writing down into my notes. I just got really confused.
You knew where to look, but you're a married man, so I respect you for not looking.
I have a bit of respect for women. I didn't want to be sort of looking, but it was filled with comedy spots. ODB obviously has been around for a long time now. I don't want to say enamored by the character when she first came in, but I liked the character. She's this big, bombastic woman who has massive jugs and just doesn't care. She wears her sexuality on her sleeve. That's the character. There's other characters since then that do the same shtick. For instance, Session Moth Martina in the UK does essentially sort of the same gimmick. It's more to do with the drinking side of things than the sort of weird drunk slutty style of stuff. She does that too, but just it's like a toned down version of ODB. ODB's very over the top. Overall, I thought it was a fun match. It's not a great wrestling match, but I thought Angelina Love and Velvet Sky looked good. What did you think?
Yeah, this was super silly, but it was very enjoyable. And they actually had, I think, plenty of time to do their stuff, because on Armageddon the women's match was what like 2 minutes. And we actually had 2 great wrestlers in Beth Phoenix and Mickie James, so this was much more entertaining than that. But with that said, I wrote, by the end of this match, there's just too much ODB ass. Like, ass is great, but too much of anything is too much, So I got kind of tired of looking at it towards the end. So I gave it, or are we doing the ratings? Or
yeah, go for it. What did you?
Yeah, okay. I forgot I was supposed to let you give your 2 cents, but I give it 1.5.
Okay, I give it 2 stars because I was entertained. Okay. It definitely wasn't as good as the first match.
Yeah,
but yes, I guess my biggest criticism would be it just didn't feel like the match mattered to really ODB and Roxxi, so I don't really know what the point of the match was. Yeah, if it's for a knockout championship match,
I didn't even catch that. I didn't even realize that it was for that.
Yeah, apparently so. I think eventually Angelina Love and Velvet Sky would joint hold the knockout belt. I could be completely wrong on that, so somebody can fact check me and let me know on Twitter at LostRow. To the back, Jeremy Borash is backstage and stops Kurt Angle before he confronts Christian. And there's sort of like this weird comedy skit between the two of them as Borash says Kurt needs to settle down and to try some deep breathing first, and then Kurt then flips this into Borash suggesting that he's trying it on with Kurt's wife.
Oh, Borash!
Karen.
I guess Borash is like Karen's counselor or something. That's what I got from this, and they do Kama Sutra together. And
I don't think they know what that means.
Yeah, and Kurt was like, Kurt took it as some kind of sexual position. So he's like, I don't know what you do, but stay away from my wife. And I found this segment funny.
Yeah, Jeremy Borash is very, very good. He does a lot of the video production now for WWE, which is good to see him getting finally a really good payday, and I hope he rides it to the end. So, Kurt enters where Cage and Bobby Roode are sat with Miss Brooks. Christian's not happy with Kurt for taking Tomko and AJ away from his stable, but then Kurt makes the whole thing worse by saying he needs Christian, but he should be the leader tonight, and Christian tells him where to go. And then we get this weird line by Christian saying to Roode that there's something else that's going to be stiff in the ring tonight. And this is kind of like there's two mentions of something like stiff or like jock strap related tonight, and this is the first part. Roode then gets really this really uncomfortable moment with Miss Brooks as she sort of stands up for herself when she sort of says he says "Oh, what an asshole!" And Miss Brooks stands up as Bobby says that and says, takes one to know one. And then basically there's a threat of like domestic violence against Miss Brooks, where he's just like, "Watch your mouth or I'm going to do something." And it's like, Merry Christmas, everyone. This is a Christmas show.
Family entertainment. In all these backstage segments, I had a really hard time understanding who the faces and the heels are, because everyone's just kind of arguing with everyone, but also trying to recruit everyone, and it just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is. I'm going to guess that this is the Vince Russo first tenure with TNA. He would have, I think, 2 or 3, and I think this is the first one. So your guess is as good as mine. A lot of these characters are sort of grey. It's really hard to know, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't blame you. This is a bit of a mess. We get a video package of James Storm and Eric Young having a drink off in a room. Storm collapses, making EY the winner. Cut to another segment where the two men are in the ring for their rematch drink-a-thon, which EY wins again. But Storm smashes a bottle over Eric Young's head, creating an absolute gusher. And we see like basically blood gushing out of his head in this video package. We cut backstage then after the video package, and Miss Jackie is backstage telling Storm not to underestimate EY and slaps him as he begs her for a beer. So I kind of like this video package. It made it look really fun. Like this is like a really fun show that they had on Impact one week.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this segment.
And we get James Storm with Miss Jackie versus Showtime Eric Young. Storm's music hits and it is awesome. I think it's like one of the best TNA themes. But Eric blindsides Storm by not coming down the ramp and immediately brawls with Storm, which I thought was tremendous, because this is obviously a blood feud. You know, Eric Young got beat up by James Storm. He shouldn't be coming down to the ramp. Eric used to do this thing where he'd come down the ramp and like he would have pyro and he would get scared by the pyro. It's a great gimmick. It works really, really well, and he sold it like $1 million. But I'm glad that he didn't do it here, because it would have just completely crushed the angle. Storm ends up baseball drop kicking Miss Jackie, who tries to intervene at one stage. EY then stomps holes in Storm before he ends up going into a ring post. The match slows down as Storm works over EY's arm. The crowd are trying to get into it, so they're shouting abuse at James Storm, but it's very slow. Storm hits EY with a crossbody off the top, but EY rolls through to a near fall pin. There's an Eye of the Storm by James, who then takes an Eddie Guerrero hammock spot in the corner, which I'm always a big fan of seeing guys using that taunt. I think it's move over to the turnbuckle and press up on the D-pad.
And he put on the cowboy hat and everything. He was chilling. Yeah,
this is great. He's a cool character. And this ties into, I thought was kind of nice anyway. At least there was a bit of, at least I draw like a line between, you know, him showing off in the ring and what Miss Jackie said before the match, which was that, you know, don't take Eric Young, you know, as a clown. Take him seriously, because it could cost him. It cost him in the previous competitions, so it could cost him again in the match, which I kind of liked. There's a power slam by EY after a massive amount of time being beaten down. Eric runs wild and lands an elbow drop off of the top rope with the same arm he's been selling, which I didn't like. There's a Northern Lights suplex by EY for a near fall on Storm. Backstabber by Storm with EY. Miss Jackie gets up on the apron, spits beer into Storm's face, which he then grabs the beer and necks it, and he tries to hit EY with the bottle, but the referee stops him. Quick roll up by EY for the win in 12 minutes and 21 seconds. What did you think of this match?
I think this is a good match. A lot of hard-hitting moves. I like the whole storytelling with the arm with Eric Young, and even though Storm lost, I don't think he looked weak, because he dominated most of the match, but then like just his ego got the best of him and he got distracted. So I think this was a good way of like elevating both guys, and yeah, it's better than I expected, because I don't know, I never really cared about Eric Young. He always seemed like almost like a Eugene type of character to me, especially in his early days, which by the way, I hate the Eugene character.
Yes. I hope we never have to talk about the Eugene character. But yeah.
But yeah, I didn't mind him at all. He did a great job here. So yeah.
I mean, I thought I thought the premise for the match was great. I just found the ending a bit bollocks. it started really hot, great sort of, heat between the two men, and then it just slowed down, like way down. And I wasn't a fan of that. By the end, I was kind of a bit meh by the whole match. So yeah, it was okay. I thought both men started hot, and then it just went downhill a bit there. And it didn't really, as you say, like, it made James Storm look great. Didn't really do anything for Eric Young, because he got beaten up for most of the match. He wins by a fluke, I guess, for like a roll up, and it doesn't really sort of solidify like a solid win against this guy who beat the shit out of him, like a week ago. So, what did you give this match in rating wise?
I enjoyed it. I think it's a good match, so I give it 3.5.
Oh wow, okay. I went 2.5 again.
Wow.
I think it's just the finish didn't sort of let me down. I thought it was very slow.
Okay, that's fine.
There we go. Tenay and West go over the egos involved in tonight's main event before running down the first ever Feast or Fired match. And the match of 10,000 tacks, Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong, Cage and Tomko versus Booker T and Kaz. So we get a bit of a rundown again of the matches tonight. And then immediately to the back, LAX and Crystal are backstage. Homicide takes issue with TNA management not giving them a title match, but Crystal rightly calls bollocks on it by reminding them that they attacked someone, so should face consequences, because that's what happens when you break the rules. You get beaten, you get something taken off against you. So this is the Feast or Fired match. This is really not easy to cover, so very short.
I wrote down that this is obviously a Vince Russo special, because there are polls everywhere.
Yes. So just to run down the participants in this, just so you know, listener, why we're not going to be talking in great detail about this match. We've got Elix Skipper, Sanjay Dutt, Christopher Daniels, Shark Boy, Low Key, Wildcat Chris Harris, BG James, aka Road Dogg, Kip James, aka Billy Gunn, so VKM, the Video Game Mafia. We get... Can I just stop here as well before I do the rest of them? Can we agree that Kip James, aka Billy Gunn, has the worst attire of the entire night?
He looks like Tori Wilson, like he borrowed her attire.
This is what happens when you're in Create a Wrestler and you take one of the wrestlers and you just basically import another attire on top of them, and it's from the women's set.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's not that he has always danced with this side of him being, like, it's always made out that he's sort of gay, like he played the gay character in,
or at least like a bisexual or something.
Yeah, but he's not. He's married and has a million kids.
Yeah.
And it never really did anything for him, like it never got him to, like, when he was the one Billy Gunn, that did more for him than the character he played in the tag team with what do you call him, frizzy haired dude, oh god, from WCW.
Oh, Billy and Chuck.
Palumbo. Billy and Chuck, that's the name of the team. Yeah, it's so memorable that I couldn't remember the name of him. Yeah, it didn't really do anything for him. So this is just weird. You have to see it to believe it. So give it a Google.
Oh, they'll see it when I do the editing this time.
oh Jesus!
Exclusively on YouTube.
There you go. LAX are in it as well, so we've got Homicide and Supermex Hernandez. We've got Lance Hoyt and Jimmy Rave, who unfortunately passed away there not long ago.
That's such a tragic story.
I've
never seen a Jimmy Rave match until this one, which is not a good start. But man, the way he went out is sad. I actually donated to him a couple of times, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. But I'm sure he's in a better place now.
Yeah. He's had some problems, poor dude. So hopefully he's at rest. This is Lance Hoyt and Jimmy Rave were a tag team, just to give you a little backstory, because you probably won't have known about this at the time, because I don't think they really discussed it too much. So it's Lance Hoyt and Jimmy Rave were a sort of like a new metal tag team. They would come out with Guitar Hero guitars and pretend to play them in the ring.
I watch a channel called Marquee D123, which I think I mentioned before. But he's pretty funny. He has my type of humor, which is like really dry and sarcastic, so that's why I enjoy him. But he covers a lot of TNA stuff. So even though I've never seen like any of the shows, I do know quite a few things because of him. So yeah, I've heard of the what are they called, the rave and the rock and rave connection.
The rock and rave connection with Christy Hemme. Yes, that's right. We get Petey Williams and then finally Scott Steiner. My next note here just says, Jesus, the state of this match. There are 4 cases hanging on poles on various sort of corners of this octagonal ring. My next note here just says, Russo!
This is just Russo.
This is Russo.
Worst.
Oh, he's in a corner, just like very happy with himself. In one of the cases, this is the premise of the match. In one of the cases is a championship shot. In another is a slip to say you're fired. And I think there's also an X Division. So there's a heavyweight championship title shot in one, and an X Division title shot in another, and a fired one. But they only say that there's a championship shot, I believe. So you're made to believe it's 2, but it's actually 3 things you could win: getting fired or winning a championship shot of one of the other.
No, I think one of the cases is getting fired, and the other ones are the world title. Sorry, I flipped you off. World title, tag title, and X Division title. Is that not right?
Could be. I must have missed that. I think I just got confused by all of the people walking down the ramp.
And they all came out to the same music. They didn't even have separate entrances. I was disappointed. I wanted to see Scott Steiner's entrance.
This is the jobber entrance that everyone gets. LAX do a lot of lifting in the ring, literally. Elix Skipper nearly breaks his leg at one point by trying to knee Shark Boy. He tries to knee him in the head while Shark Boy's on like the top turnbuckle, and then he like slips and falls, and it's like, Jesus, I hope he's alright.
That was not worth it.
No, it certainly was not. Elix, who I don't know if I'm sure you've seen the video of him doing the impressive rope walk or the cage walk, and then he does a hurricane run off the top of the cage. It's incredible, but this was not that. Petey Williams hits an impressive hurricane rana to the outside before grabbing a case and dropping to the floor, securing a case. So that's 1 down, 3 to go. BG James pretends to be hurt. Initially I was kind of like, oh, did the cameraman miss something else and BG James got hurt? But no. Kip grabs a case and throws it to BG on the outside, who like leaps up out of this stretcher and grabs it. Don Weston tonight did like a great job of telling the story that maybe some wrestlers don't want the case in case they get fired, which was what they were sort of saying about Chris Harris, who was hanging around by the desk with them and then sort of randomly would shout stuff at them, and they're like, what are you talking, just go and get in the ring. Supermex Hernandez catapults Senshi, aka Loki, aka Caval, up onto a pole. Like it is like a reverse something on a pole, because he just throws this man up the pole.
I thought it looked really cool. That was a really cool spot, I think.
His strength is just incredible.
Yeah, and Senshi's balance and athleticism. I've never really seen Senshi's matches, and I've heard he's somewhat of a dick in real life. But this was impressive.
Yeah. And he grabs the case and escapes before Scott Steiner, who spent 90% of the match just slowly walking around on the outside, can grab him. So he's got a case, so we're down to 2. Chris Harris, who said throughout the match that he doesn't want to be in the match, now wants to be in the match, and tricks Shark Boy into going for the last briefcase. So I must have missed one. Dot interjects, but Supermax throws Sanjay over the top into everyone on the floor, which was another incredible strength spot. And this is pretty much Hernandez's gimmick, is that he's really good at throwing people. Steiner hits a belly to belly to Kip James. Daniels missile drop kicks Steiner and grabs the last case. Kip famasters Daniels onto the case, and then Steiner grabs it and slowly leaves the ring and gets case number 2 to end the match in 11:55. But don't worry, folks, you don't get the resolution until Impact on Thursday. But spoilers incoming. Before I go into the spoilers, what did you think of this presentation and match?
Well, this turned out better than I expected. And with that said, this was not very good. I mean, I don't even know how many guys were in here. Like, I wrote 15. I didn't really count them, but that's my guess. Somewhere around there. It's impossible to have even a decent match with so many guys in the ring. It's always going to be just a spot fest and a brawl. And this was your average spot fest and brawl. A couple standout moments like the Senshi landing on the top rope and grabbing the briefcase. And you have some, like, subplots in here with, like, Chris Harris and BG James and his partner and everything. And it was fairly entertaining. I don't think I want to see another one of these. And it really pissed me off, like, legitimately made me upset that they don't tell you what's in the briefcase. That is just so stupid.
Yeah, you have to tune into Impact on Thursday to get that. So I guess I'll skip forward a little bit here. So Impact, December 13th, 2007, is finally when the case contents all get revealed. However, you may have noticed we've skipped forward 2 weeks. So it's not actually Thursday that week, it's Thursday in 2 weeks. However, on the December 6th edition of Impact, Christopher Daniels defeated Senshi with Elix Skipper as the special guest referee to win Senshi's briefcase. So again, this isn't explained that they would do this. Essentially, if you win a briefcase, it doesn't really matter because you could still lose it if you somehow agree to participate in a match. And then prior to the unveiling, Scott Steiner defeated fellow briefcase holders Daniels, Petey Williams and BG James to get to decide either switch his briefcase with another or take $50,000 buyout, which again I don't think was ever explained beforehand. So the rules as the weeks went on, they got more and more complicated.
This sounds like a turning into like a spy thriller or something. Like, what is going on?
So Steiner chose to switch his briefcase with Williams. Williams' new and Steiner's old briefcase were then opened, awarding Petey Williams a future TNA World Heavyweight Championship match. James's briefcase was next, giving him a future World Tag Team World Championship match, and James's briefcase was next, giving him a future... Oh no, I think I've just read the same thing twice. So he got the Tag Team Championships chance. And then... This is so confusing. Even reading my notes are confusing. So he gets to pick a partner of his choice. So when you get the Tag Team Championship opportunity, you don't have to pick your own tag team partner. You can pick someone else. I think he went with his tag team partner at the time. Steiner's... So both Steiner's and Williams' old case were opened essentially simultaneously at the same time. And obviously Steiner didn't get the World Heavyweight Championship shot. Petey did. So what he got was the TNA X Division Championship match, which was handy. So obviously Petey originally would have had the X Division shot, which would have fitted him quite well because he was in the X Division at the time. So basically he swapped it around and ended up getting the X Division shot. And then Daniels was the one with the pink slip. So essentially he got fired, and he would come back, I believe, at this stage as Curryman. And he would be... Basically, the story was that he's a new wrestler from Japan, but it's actually Christopher Daniels wearing a plate of curry on his head. After the segment, Steiner and Williams apparently started a storyline over their briefcases leading up to Against All Odds pay-per-view, where Steiner defeated Williams to gain control over both cases.
I'm going to be honest with you. Other than Christopher Daniels getting fired, I have no idea who got what. Even after your explanation.
Dude, it's so complicated. This is Russo in action right now.
This is why this company's in the damn shape it is, because of bullshit like this.
So basically, Steiner eventually gave... Steiner and Petey Williams started sort of teaming together. This is when he would give...
Yeah, Petey Williams became like a miniature...
Little Petey Pump,
yeah.
Little Petey Pump, they called him. And eventually he would use that shot on April 17th, 2008. And he would win the X Division Championship. Steiner went on to use his title shot at guess what pay-per-view? Can you name the pay-per-view? Very famous segment.
No.
Samoa Joe at Sacrifice.
Oh,
Your numbers have come. Yes,
Okay.
we can trace the infamous Scott Steiner promo all the way back to this exact show. So that is the one nugget of information I have for you that come out of this entire segment. So
Seeds planted.
he did indeed. So there you go. My notes just say this match is a mess. Never gets any better in any of the iterations afterwards. But at least they were able to get multiple storylines out of it as a result. And obviously, I've tried my best to explain the mess that comes after it. So it did go on for quite a while from this initial Feast or Fired all the way through to April. It's a fun concept, like a lot of Russo's ideas, but confusing like all of his ideas and bollocks overall.
So, what are our ratings for this?
Dude, a weird part of me enjoyed it because of the bollocks.
Me too.
So
I'm giving this a 2 because, like you said, it's actually a fairly interesting concept. It just way too convoluted, and if they simplified it, because, like, for example, I'm pretty sure this was copied from Money in the Bank. And Money in the Bank is pretty easy to understand. You grab the briefcase, you have a year to cash in. And, you know, they screwed that concept up too over the years. But originally, it was pretty simple and it was unique. And this is kind of the same. If it was the same in simplicity, I think this would have worked better.
Absolutely, yeah. I give it 2.5 stars.
Okay.
I liked the high flying. I liked the sort of, you know, some of the more sillier spots in the match. You know, the X Division stars stood out. The guys who are not the X Division stars stood out as well, but for the wrong reason, like Scott Steiner just doing nothing, Cowboy Chris Harris doing next to nothing. But the standout performance was from a TNA original, I guess, Supermex Hernandez. I just thought that, like, why did Hernandez not win a bit, like one of those briefcases, and they instead chose to put Scott Steiner over it? Just doesn't make any sense, you know, looking back. Again, it's that old star power, and those guys that ran TNA just still clinging to that star power as much as they could to try and claw the company up in the ratings or make them bigger. I'm not too sure, but yeah, 2.5 stars. We get a video recap of Kong and Kim's feud building to their match tonight. There's a simple video just showing the monster Awesome Kong and the superface Gail Kim, and then backstage Kim cuts a fiery promo, or at least a sort of mild fiery promo. It's not particularly, doesn't really say anything new.
Yeah, she stumbled a couple times, but the passion was there. Yeah.
Yeah. She cuts a promo with Crystal, and then basically just says that Kong's going to have to kill her to beat her, and that she'll do anything to win. So our next match is Awesome Kong versus Gail Kim for the TNA Knockouts Championship. TNA runs down the tail of the tape, which I was amazed by. I was like, wow, this is incredible. It's surprisingly on the same show as ODB and Velvet Sky. So this match is presented as an actual professional competition, which is the first one, I guess, out of the... and also the first singles match that we get tonight as well.
This had a legitimate big fight feel to me.
Absolutely. I thought that, you know, adding that little tail of the tape and little statistics that they put up on the screen and the video package, the backstage interview, I thought was tremendous. So I was really amped up and looking forward to seeing this one. And I've seen Gail Kim and Awesome Kong before, and so I knew that it was going to be good, at least. Kong dominates early, battering Kim before the match even begins, but Kim arm rings and snaps Kong's arm over the ropes as we start the match. Kong chokes Kim and spins her round, ending with a release. Kim fights back with strikes, but Kong paintbrushes her face. Kong sets Kim into the camel clutch with like these wild facials before picking Kim up into a choke slam of sorts, and then follows up with like a hair toss, sending Kim right the way across the ring. Kim gets splashed in the corner with this brutal like running slam, but fights back with an armbar over the ropes to Kong. She then tries for a hammerlock suplex, but sort of gets bounced into the ropes by Kong's ass. Kong has to do this, the silliest moment in the match, I guess, is where she's the monster that won't fall down. So Kim is basically like a she's it's like a pinball table where like the little marbles bouncing off all of the ropes, trying to sort of hit like the bumper, and that's pretty much what Gail Kim does, and eventually does a sit-out drop kick to stop Kong and put her on her back.
And I want to stop you right there. Don West lost his shit during this spot when Gail Kim jumped off the top rope and kicked Awesome Kong in the head, and Kong finally fell down. Don West just freaked out, and this was the moment that I was talking about earlier. I almost jumped out of my seat. I was so excited during this moment. Mostly
good.
Thanks to Don West.
It was good. It was an easy match to see what the story that they're telling. We're obviously a fan of those simple stories. If you have a common thread that runs through the match, fast guy or fast girl, strong girl. It's very simple. We saw it with Mickie James and Beth Phoenix in the last one. Nice simple story, and I really enjoyed it. And essentially, there's a bit of a grim spot afterwards, though, after this awesome drop kick where Gail Kim goes up to the top for like the senton splash, but basically just slides off of Awesome Kong. But she gets a near fall.
That hurt my butt. Watching that.
It seemed to hurt herself more than it hurt Kong. But Kong fights back and gets herself disqualified for manhandling the referee Andrew Thomas at the 8 minutes and 23 mark. She awesome bombs referee Thomas, and then Velvet Sky runs out but gets choke slammed as she tries to save Gail Kim, who's getting destroyed in the ring. Angelina Love comes out with a chair, but Kong punches her through the chair, which I was like, holy shit, that looked awesome.
Oh, it was awesome, yeah.
She just decked that chair into her face. And then Kong awesome bombs Kim onto the chair, which was phenomenal. And then security come out to break it all up and finish the segment. Match was great, for me anyway, up to the finish. But the segment after the bell really made Kong look tremendous. What did you think about this match and sort of closing segment of the match?
I'm 100% there with you. I loved this match. I was watching it, I was like, this is 4 stars for sure. Just like Gail Kim was getting her ass beat the whole time, and I just couldn't help but cheer for her, even though this was 15 years ago, and I could just like go to Wikipedia and see the result very quick, and none of this even matters by today's standards, but I was just really into it. And when she was making her comeback, I was just cheering her on, and but then that finish just sucked the air out of me. This was like not as bad as JBL during the last show, but very similar vibes to that. I just hated this finish. So the match dropped from 4 stars to 3 for me, but then, like you said, that beatdown was just awesome. So I'm going to include the beatdown as part of the match. So 3.5 for the whole segment for me.
Yeah, agreed. I give it 3.75 stars. I went slightly higher. Yeah, overall, just great. Definitely, of the night so far, best match in the card so far.
Yeah, and especially if you consider that time period, 2007, women having these kind of matches, that's like unheard of, at least in the United States mainstream companies.
Well, that's it. I mean, you saw it earlier on the card. You had the comedy sort of women getting their ass out and coming out with like the cleavage, like their tits hanging out, and it's kind of the tale of these two different. It feels like 2 separate companies when they're presenting Gail Kim and Awesome Kong like it's like a boxing main event compared to this sort of comedy clown segment earlier on in the night. It's very strange. So there's 2 different, I guess, philosophies somewhere in TNA at the time.
I really wish Awesome Kong was about 10 years younger, because she would be a mega star in the women's division, in today's women's division, I think.
Yeah, definitely. She unfortunately got bad back. Can't wrestle anymore, so it's a shame. To the back, AJ is bitching that Kurt failed and that he's out of this team with Kurt because he can't function without Cage. And this is where Angle says, "What are you, fruity?" And Karen says that they may be able to sabotage Joe's team by causing some friction between him, Hall, and Nash. I thought this was a great little segment.
Kurt Angle just steals every second that he speaks or does anything. He's just so good. Like, even though this is the Perk Angle era where he's obviously on drugs and he's just really skinny and everything, but man, he's still top-notch performer in every way. But AJ, he looks like he's on coke this every backstage segment he's in. He's just like spazzing out. Like, I don't even know the proper word for it, but he's just like way too over energetic. He's way overacting about everything, and in a way that's hilarious. Yeah. But also, it's like, you're not a very good actor, dude.
It's like somebody has a puppet in their hand and they're just flailing this guy's head back and forth as he's like over exaggerating everything. He's moving his head and everything. It's insane. We get a Silent Night, Massacre Night promo, which is basically heavy metal rendition of Come All Ye Faithful for the Black Rain and Rellik versus Abyss and Rhino, except it's not Rhino who's still featured in the video package. It should actually be Raven, as Rhino's injured, which we have to get explained by Mike Tenay. This is the follow-up match to Black Rain and Abyss's Little Shop of Horrors match at Genesis the prior month. I didn't look up what that detailed. I'm going to say it's probably the same.
Yeah.
And we cut backstage to Black Rain. He's licking his Arctic fox, Misty. In brackets here I have a fucking rat. He does a comical Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget voice, while Crystal tries not to laugh.
To me, it sounded like Nolan's Batman.
Oh, that's giving it far too much credit. Like, I mean, it's a terrible voice that Nolan's, Christian Bale had to do, but this is like on a different level. This is like Saturday morning kid show, creepy voice. But I did notice like Crystal was desperately trying not to laugh in this, and that made it very funny to me. Yeah. So I loved it. State of Black Rain, aka Dustin Rhodes, at this time period, man, he looked terrible.
He has a triple chin and everything. Like, that poor man, he has aged backwards for sure. He looks great now.
I'm pretty sure he has cheated death, because this looks like he was close to it at the time. He was ballooned out, so overweight here. He's in this kind of like, I'm going to steal something from OSW review, but they have this, they call it the bin liner or bin bag get up, where it looks like he's wearing loads of bin bags with like some, tribal tattoos over it. It's horrible. The dude was in a bad way at the time with his drug addictions and stuff and alcohol, and just not in a good place. Thankfully, doing much better now, and looks half the man, literally, than he is here.
Yeah, he's about 70 pounds lighter now than he was back then.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And we get Rellik, who's with him.
Killer spelled backwards, you always got to say that.
They do remind us at one stage, so thanks to Mike Tenay for that one, who is the one-time WWE performer, Johnny the Bull. Rellik and Rain are out first, followed by a grim-looking, out-of-shape Raven and his great TNA theme, and Abyss is out last. So it's Rellik and Black Rain versus Abyss and Raven in a 10,000 tax match. Got to get those gimmicks in, man. There's not enough of them on this card. Abyss and Raven swiftly beat down both guys as Tenay reminds us that Rellik is killer spelled backwards. Who would have guessed?
Yeah, Raven, they even flipped the K backwards on the video, and even in the entrance, the nameplate, even there the K is backwards. It's like, dude, we get it. Actually,
trying to make
his name was cooler before I realized that it was killer backwards, because Rellik, I don't know, sounds kind of cool, I guess, but when it's like, oh, it's so gimmicky, it's stupid now.
Yeah, I don't know if Judas Macias was injured. I'm thinking maybe that was what the crack was, because Judas Macias was brought in by Father James Mitchell, and I'm pretty sure Rellik was also brought in by by Jim Mitchell as well. So I'm not too sure where Jim or Macias is, but maybe they're injured. Who knows? Raven with a running slingshot to everyone on the outside, which surprised me. So he runs and actually dives over the top rope, which I was like, wow.
He's a Raven. You gotta fly.
Everyone ends up in the crowd brawling, with Raven against Rellik and Abyss with Rain. Abyss puts a bed of tacks on a table by ringside. Abyss gets stopped putting Rain through the table, but spikes Rain in the head with what we'll call, I've just listed it here as like an evil shillelagh. It sort of looks like Finlay's shillelagh, but it's got a spike on the end of it.
Yeah, that's a murder weapon. There's no way that's allowed in a wrestling match.
No, absolutely not. Rain is busted open, and Abyss follows by gushing blood everywhere, and then Black Rain then bites into Abyss's bloody wound, which I just have a note here. It says rotten. And I mean, the cameraman gets right in, and you can see his mouth. It's all in his mouth. All the blood's going into his mouth. It's horrific.
That's how you get hepatitis and all kinds of other stuff.
Oh, Jesus, absolutely. Rellik puts tacks into Raven's mouth, and there's more tacks on poles, which I didn't notice as well. So, like, Rellik then tries to go up. He then tries to climb the top of this pole to get more tacks.
It's even though he's Russo show. You got to have poles in every match.
He's got tacks in the ring, and he's like, "Oh, I've got to have more tacks." And Raven sort of wanders over and then power bombs him off of the corner. Reigns gets DDT'd by Raven, but Rain and Rellik beat him down. We get kendo shots to Rain, and I'm going to call him Reigns, like Roman Reigns, Reigns and Rellik, before Rain stops Abyss with a low blow. Rain sets Raven up to get spiked by it's called the Darkness Falls shillelagh. I'm just going to call it the shillelagh, Darkness Falls shillelagh. But Raven catapults him off of the turnbuckle through the table and tacks. And then Raven goes to drop an elbow on Rellik, who's on an empty tack table, but Rellik moves. Rellik gets a bag of tacks from the pole, while a bloody Abyss looks on from the mat. As Rellik lays him out, Abyss tries to chokeslam him, but Rellik counters with black spray, which I missed, but apparently he sprayed something from his mouth.
It looked red, and I was like, I don't think you needed to add any more blood to Abyss's face, because he was already red all over.
Yeah, you couldn't tell anything had happened to him, but Abyss still hits a black hole slam and pins a very bloody Rellik to win at 14 minutes and 41 seconds. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of this match. There's lots of blood, lots of shortcuts, very bland in terms of in-ring wrestling. Just a bit of a gore fest. What did you think of this one?
I've never been a fan of Thumbtacks. I think they don't look cool. Like, almost nothing with them looks cool or impactful, but they're also very, very dangerous. So it's like the risk is not worth the reward, in my opinion. Because like when you use tables and ladders, that stuff looks cool, but this is not cool. And it's, like you said, it's just a bloody mess. Although the black hole slam did look really cool, and Black Rain's tumble off the top rope through that table looked pretty cool. I guess it's cool for fans who do like this kind of hardcore stuff, because I know that there are people who like that's their specialty, like those CZW fans, I guess. But to me, this was like, I guess it's a spectacle, but it's very average, very basic brawl.
Fair enough. What did you give it rating-wise then?
2.5. 2.5 average.
Okay, I went 2.25, so 2.25 then.
We're really close in this show.
Yeah, we're pretty close tonight, I have to say. To the back immediately. Kurt's in Joe's locker room. Kurt says that Hall and Nash are taking Joe for a ride, and that Hall and Nash are going to Hall and Nash, which basically just means that they're going to look after themselves first. So he basically tells him to watch out for himself, and that's it. He has nothing else to say to him. Back at ringside, Tenay runs down the story.
I want to say something about this segment. I don't know if you caught this, but when he's talking to Joe doesn't really know how to act. He's just like looking around everywhere as if like he's about to get jumped or something, even though you can tell he's in this tiny locker room and there's no one there. And then as Kurt is talking, Joe just kind of like makes a fist out of nowhere, like he's ready to fight. And then immediately they pan the camera exclusively to Kurt. I guess at this moment they were telling Joe what to do, maybe. Because then like 10 seconds later they went back to Joe and he was just kind of relaxed, standing there listening. And I don't know, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, he's the scripted stuff that Samoa Joe's had to do over the years, like the Nation of Violence iteration of Samoa Joe's career, never works out. He's not a scripted wrestler. He's much better, as we'll see later, with perhaps unscripted moments.
Yep.
So back at ringside, Mike Tenay runs down the story so far for the main event, and have you noticed that Scott Hall's nowhere to be seen? More on that later. We get a video package for the upcoming tag match between Booker T and Kaz taking on Bobby Roode and Christian Cage. Booker T is fresh to the company. This is his first pay-per-view. But Roode and Cage don't like T filling up another spot, and Christian's basically convinced Bobby Roode that Booker T is basically going to just be taking a spot that Bobby Roode could be having. Booker and Sharmell are backstage with Crystal. T cuts a babyface promo about how awesome Kaz is for coming to help him fend off Christian and Roode, who had ambushed him the previous week, but notes that Roode has a great future in front of him, but not tonight, as he's going to be getting his finisher. So, tag match between the two teams. Roode is out first with Miss Brooks, followed by the instant classic Christian Cage, and Kaz is out with his awesome Metallica-themed looking gear. I thought he looked like $1 million in this one, and then we get a great entrance for Booker T, complete with his rip-off theme from WWE and WCW, but done on a shoestring budget on a Casio keyboard.
His music sounds like one of those, like back in the day, like on the GameCube, when half the themes are just knockoffs because they couldn't afford, like, they didn't pay for their legit ones. It just sounds like a fake version. That's what a lot of TNA themes sound like.
Yeah, you're just right. Yeah, Kaz and Cage start this one off with Kaz getting to show his speed and skills. Lovely high springboard leg drop by him. Miss Brooks looks on at Kaz, whom she was actually dating at the time and would marry in 2010.
They're still married, I think.
They are, yeah. They've got a son and stuff together. Booker and Roode are tagged in, and Booker gets some fiery offense and does like a lovely suplex right in the middle of the ring to Bobby, while a mad-looking woman peers at Bobby from the crowd, highlighted by a spotlight.
That made me laugh. I have no idea what that was about, but
her face was completely comical. It diverted from the match. Essentially, you had this really good match happening in front of you, and then they purposely draw your attention to the corner of the arena where this weird looking woman is doing mad facials and peering out from behind something.
At first I thought it was just a random fan, but then they acknowledged her, so I was like, oh, okay, this is like some storyline. But yeah, it was funny.
Yes. We get another advert cut in, obviously now cut, but we get Cage and Kaz again, who stacks both Cage and Roode in the corner and hits a pendulum drop kick like Jeff Hardy used to do. Both men roll to the outside, and Kaz dives over the top with a huge somersault dive. With Kaz and Roode battling in the ring, Bobby hits a great overhead belly-to-back suplex while the superfan looks on with a gormless stare. My next note says, "This bullshit cutting away is not needed." Kaz does a jumping nothing, which we're obviously a fan of, into a massive rock bottom by Roode for a near fall. Before Booker T intervenes, Kaz hits Cage, who's now tagged in, with a future wave, aka the stroke, and Roode distracts Booker so Kaz doesn't get the tag. Kaz counters Cage and hits a neck breaker and DDT combo to Cage and Roode. Booker gets the hot tag, clearing house, eventually hitting a missile drop kick. Roode stops the spinneroonie but takes a heel kick, which was one of my favourite Booker T moves. Kaz takes Roode and Cage down with a double leg drop kick but gets sent over the top ropes. Booker takes down both Christian and Roode and hits the spinneroonie while the crowd go wild. Roode blocks the scissors kick, and with the ref distracted, Roode tries to hit Booker with a chair but hits Cage. Scissor kick by Booker for the pin and win in our lengthiest match, I think, tonight at 15 minutes and 50 seconds. I thought it was a hot match, but again, there has to be some kind of bollocks threaded into it. They just can't help themselves. They can't have a standard match. There has to be something in it that just takes you away from the match. And it was definitely the superfan that sort of just, again, it just takes your concentration off the match. So I wasn't a fan of that. But I liked the match overall. I thought that Kaz was almost outshone. I think he did outshine Booker T in this match. I think Kaz looked like a megastar, and Booker T just looked like, well, Booker T. He was doing all the stuff that Booker T would do, and I like Booker, but Kaz was clearly, for me, the star of the match. What did you think overall?
I think Booker still performed pretty well. He held his own with all these guys. But yeah, Kaz really impressed me. And of course, I've never really seen him up until AEW's. But he doesn't really do much on AEW. Maybe he's on Dark, but I don't watch Dark. But from what I've seen him on Dynamite, he's been good. But here, he was just amazing. He was really athletic. That Sister Abigail looking move he did was super crispy. I don't know what he calls it. You mentioned it, but I don't remember. Anyways, it looked really nice.
Future Shock or something.
Something
Future Wave. Yeah, Future Wave. I think
it looks so nice. There was a Rude Zasaka chant, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, this match was enjoyable. I liked it. At first, I was like, these teams are super random, but they gelled pretty well together.
And what about rating wise? What did you give them?
I'm gonna give this 3.5.
Oh, okay, cool. I give it 3.25, 3.25. I thought it was decent enough. Yeah, we're about the same.
Okay.
And then after the match, Roode picks up Cage, obviously to apologise for hitting him with a chair, but Cage slaps Bobby. AJ runs down as the peacemaker, as he doesn't want to see the team split up, with the story that Cage is AJ's mentor. To the back, Samoa Joe is shouting at Kevin Nash. Joe's pissed that Hull hasn't shown up and says, could he not pass the breathalyzer test to start his car? Kevin shouts back that he's worried about Hull's health, but Joe calls bullshit and tells him to man up and show up at ring. We get a promo package showing the return of Hull and Nash, which seems
and they have
really...
absolutely no footage of anything they've ever done.
No,
so it's just them doing this in TNA for the past 3 weeks. There's no footage of WCW, WWE, nothing.
It's basically them saying, you know who we are, but you don't know why we're here, something, typical of the NWO sort of style of promo. It's so easy to spot that Scott Hall is not in any shape in any of the videos that they've got. He looks bloated, he looks drunk on camera, if I'm being honest. He just looks horrendous. And essentially what they're trying to do here is piece together the NWO again and have Samoa Joe as the guy who is already in the company. And then he's the third man. That's what they're trying to do. And they're taking on Kurt Angle, Kurt Angle's alliance, aka the WCW alliance. So they're sort of, they're replacing things that made the original storyline with their own things to try and make this weird kind of rivalry.
Well, who's the heel and face here?
Nobody knows.
I was under the impression that Angle's teams are the heels. But then again, I'm also under the impression that Kevin Nash is a heel, but Samoa Joe is a face. I don't know. Makes no sense.
It's a mess. This is a real mess, this storyline. It was never going to work out, even if Hall did show up. But AJ Styles, Tomko and Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe, Kevin Nash, and to be announced. AJ is out first, while Mike Tenay confirms that yes, Scott Hall isn't here. Kurt Angle. So this is the thing. They knew in the morning that Scott Hall wasn't going to be there. And I think they pretty much scrambled to get some kind of coherent storyline told. But they still advertised Scott Hall, which I'm never a fan of. If you know that somebody isn't going to turn up, you pretty much want to say, he's not going to be here. WWE still do it today. I think they recently did it. I was listening to the news the other day on Post Wrestling, and they were saying that, a lot of performers have COVID, but they're still being announced for the shows, like the house shows. But they're not showing up for the house shows because they're not well. They can't work.
Yeah, they're using the card subject to change excuse more and more now.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it's not false advertisement because we said it could change, so it's always a cop-out.
Kurt gets his own entrance, separate from the lads, with the TNA World Championship, which is great.
I think Kurt's music is awesome, although it doesn't fit him.
I think it's great too. I don't know. I like the change up
because we're used to this Olympic hero music, but here he has straight up rap, like hardcore rap music, which doesn't really fit him, but at the same time, it is like really badass because he kind of has more of like almost like a MMA type of gimmick now. I don't know.
Exactly. This is the last gimmick he did before leaving WWE, which is that he had that match with Randy Orton on One Night Stand 2006 where they were going to have Kurt Angle, I think it was 2006 anyway, where they were going to have Kurt Angle being in the ECW locker room or in the ECW, stable, and he was going to be their sort of top champion, and they were going to basically build the entire ECW roster around Kurt Angle, so it was going to be more hardcore. Kurt didn't want to do that, and that's essentially pretty much why he left, for a large reason apart from getting fired, but that was one of the reasons he wasn't too happy, and so I think he was perhaps dealing in his devils a little bit too much at the time. Kevin Nash, aka Big Santa, is out next, followed by Samoa Joe after a massive delay by Joe of not showing up after his music's playing. And Joe looks like an absolute killer, but very pissed off. And he's such a unique wrestler for this time period. Joe grabs the mic, and here we go. Joe basically says that he was told to come out, and the management team asked him to basically tell everyone in the crowd that Scott Hall's no-showed the event. He then passionately tells the tale of two sides of TNA, the diehards and the superstars who can do whatever they want. I can't do it justice. I'm not going to try and, say it word for word, but essentially...
I'll splice it in the video. Hopefully it doesn't interfere.
Yeah, I'm going to splice it in the audio too, so you'll be able to hear it at some stage. Joe has no fear and says to someone off camera at ringside, "You mad? Fire me, I don't care." This someone was Dixie Carter, the president of TNA, who was sat at ringside, who apparently thought Joe went into business for himself cutting the promo. They asked him to do something, and he basically went the extra mile and destroyed Scott Hall on the mic. Joe introduces his real partner after running down Kevin Nash by basically saying all the superstars are just old men or out of shape, and it's unbelievable, this promo. He introduces his real partner, and what I thought was like so respectful obviously by not just by Joe but probably by management backstage, was that they asked him to pick somebody who is a TNA original or a TNA diehard, and that is Eric Young, who might surprise a lot of people watching this because he's sort of positioned as like this joke character that's wrestling, for like beer and stuff earlier on in the night. But this is a really nice touch, and I noted as well, just as he sort of finishes up and EY comes into the ring, Kevin Nash walks completely out of the ring without saying a word to anyone. He's before he even walks out, he's leaning over the ropes facing away from Joe. He won't look at Joe, but he stands at ringside, and I just felt, wow, this guy got completely bitch slapped in the face here in the middle of the ring, and Joe was not afraid to stare him down as he was delivering this verbal ass whooping. What did you think of the promo?
Oh, this promo, I wrote, I was trying to take notes, but I just wrote, there's a lot to unpack. I've actually seen this promo before. It's a lot better to watch it with context and as part of the entire show. I understand what Joe was saying and where he's coming from, and I pretty much agree with everything he was saying, because everywhere Hall and Nash go, it's the same old stuff. They're burying the younger guys. It seems like they're doing it for the money. They don't want to do the work. Very selfish, and that's why WCW died. And I think even to this day, people are like sad about WCW being gone 20 years later, and a lot of that can be pointed at guys like Nash and Hall and everything. And eventually TNA, it's been on life support for half of its existence now, due to guys like Hogan and Nash and Flair and stuff, and Dixie and whatever. But the thing is, I can kind of side with Nash too, because if this was a real life situation and Hall was really in trouble, and this is really like Nash's brother, basically, lifelong brother, I'm sure that it was not pleasant for Nash to hear all that, especially right there and in front of people. It must have been humiliating, and I know that if I was in Nash's shoes, I would be thinking about my best friend and like hoping he's okay, and probably not wanting to even work right now. But I gotta stay in character, and I gotta do what I gotta do. So I can kind of sympathize with Nash from that aspect. One interesting thing was when Joe was talking about all these old guys and like coming here for money and all that. He was looking at Angle, and you could even see Angle going, "You talking to me? You talking to me?" One thing you can not say about Angle is that he's lazy. If there's one guy in the industry who always gives 110% with everything, it's Kurt Angle. So I'm not really sure why it was directed at him, but yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, it's an amazing promo. He's got all these valid points, but it's basically, it's not directed at the right person. You know, it feels like when I was watching it, like he verbally took down Kevin Nash, and I was like, wow, you know, like Kevin Nash deserves a little bit of it. But you're right in that it's not Kevin Nash's fault. Like, it's not Kevin Nash or Scott Hall's fault that they work there. It's the fault of the management team that hired them. And what he should have been saying was, the management team let us down because they hired Scott Hall in the first place, and he's not fit to work. If he had directed the rage and the anger at the management team and Dixie Carter for hiring Scott Hall, I think it would have come off even better than what it does.
I agree.
The joke is that, you know, the real joke here is, the way I understand it and what I've read, is that the management team asked Joe to come out and deliver a message to the crowd. Nobody has taken any ownership for Scott Hall not showing up. They've basically left it to a wrestler to tell a wrestling story, which would be threaded into Joe's career for the next year. So essentially he creates his own storyline out of this, unfortunately, to a large degree. It's a tale of two halves. There's reality in what he's saying, you know, to a lot of those wrestlers who are coming in at much higher salaries. Like, I strongly believe that some of it was directed towards Kurt Angle, because Kurt wasn't coming in for, you know, change. He was coming in for a lot of money. Guys like Kevin Nash were coming in for a lot of money. You know, Booker T was coming in for a lot of money. So anyone who's coming from WWE was instantly paid way more than what AJ Styles was paid, or Christopher Daniels. I'm sure there's tons of interviews you can hear online about these guys giving off about how little money they were actually paid by TNA. Eventually AJ would get a good contract out of them, but it was, you know, in the end they basically, you know, TNA decided not to pay AJ the money that he was worth, and that's how he left TNA eventually. Primarily because they couldn't afford it. But yeah, I think great promo. It's just that don't be hoodwinked by Samoa Joe's, you know, pointing it at the wrestlers. It's more so it should have been pointed at the management team, like Dixie Carter, number one. Vince Russo, if he is there backstage, be another one, because I'm pretty sure he would have been you know, telling them who to hire. And
yeah.
Listening to Vince Russo is just stupid.
This is 2007. Scott Hall has been a problem since 1998. So, like, for 9 years, you know that this guy is a problem. And when he does show up, you can tell he can barely function. So why are you advertising him for pay-per-view main events? And you got to send him to rehab or just cut ties with him. So, yeah, management's at fault 100%.
Yeah, and this isn't the last time that obviously they would do it. You know, the same mistakes. You know, in 2009, I think it's Victory Road, Jeff Hardy comes out in he's no, you know, we'll probably cover it at some stage. It's one of the worst TNA pay-per-views of all time. He comes out and he can't work because he's high, and they allow him to get in the ring. And they basically put Sting, he's wrestling at the time for the championship, in danger by having this drunk high guy in the ring. Luckily Sting's not an idiot and sees it for what it is and ends the match really quickly. But that was another decision by the people backstage, like Eric Bischoff. It was their decision to put him out there. And if Hall was there on this night, I'm fairly sure they would put him out there as well. And it's a good job he didn't turn up if he wasn't in condition to work. So, what about the match? So, AJ and Joe start off at 100 miles an hour staring, and Joe basically Start 100 miles an hour, staring at Kevin Nash as he tags in Eric Young after sort of doing like this weird sort of pinning, rolling thing going on in the ring.
I've only seen that in the SmackDown games, so it was interesting to finally see it in real life.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think I've seen it on AEW recently in the past year, but I couldn't tell you when. Angle's in next to Eric Young. EY wrestles at a much faster and harder rate than he did previously in the night, getting the better of Angle. Nash tags himself in after he comes back onto the ring apron and completely whiffs, hitting a big boot to Tomko, who's now in, who sells it anyway. Nash with all the classic big boots, big chokes, etc. to Tomko.
The hair whip.
Yeah. Tomko stuns Kev and tags AJ in, who gets side slammed by Nash. Eric's tagged in and delivers a great wheelbarrow neck breaker to AJ. There's a Pele kick to AJ, or by AJ to the top of EY, who's on the turnbuckle, but Eric Young delivers a front suplex to AJ, so both men are down. Nash is tagged in against Angle and delivers a big clothesline to Kurt and Tomko. The match breaks down for a moment with EY diving over the top to be caught by AJ and Tomko, but Samoa Joe with a suicide dive finishes it off for him. With Nash in the ring, he's dropped into an ankle lock and Joe hesitantly almost sort of leaves him but decides against it, so super kicks Angle in the face. Nash tags Joe in. Angle hits a German suplex to Joe but then eats the jackknife powerbomb by Kevin Nash. Nash takes a phenomenal forearm. There's a Death Valley driver by EY to Tomko, a muscle buster to Tomko by Joe for the pin and win at the 9-minute 31 mark. And Nash immediately walks out of the arena, missing the celebration completely. Before I get into sort of the expanded story of this, what did you think of the actual match itself?
The match was surprisingly pretty well put together, considering all the circumstances and the promo that just happened and everyone's mood at the time. No way this should be on a pay-per-view or even main eventing a pay-per-view. This is more like an Impact main event, I think. So yeah, that was kind of disappointing. And that's my whole thing with this entire show, is that no titles were on the line except for women's match, the women's championship. And I feel like pay-per-views should have title matches, especially the world championship. But yeah, the match was okay. Very fast-paced, kind of. Well, as fast as Kevin Nash can go. But yeah, Joe and Eric Young and Kurt Angle and AJ, they did well.
Okay, and if you had to give the match and the sort of promo segment, I guess, a rating, what would you give it?
Oh man, well the promos got to be at least 4.5. But the match, I'm gonna go with a 3.
Yeah, I give it a 3 too. I think that's a good call. Just sort of average it out. Overall, this match has everything. Potentially, it's got a historical promo, which is well remembered after its day, by Joe. It's got a fairly fast match with a great story to thread throughout it. As told by the promo. But I think that Nash looked like a fool, having said nothing in return to Joe afterwards. So it was a bit too real, I think. Overall, I've got a little bit of a sort of follow-up on a lot of this. But overall, it's a very average pay-per-view, as you sort of mentioned there. It feels like an Impact episode. Out of the 8 matches, 5 of them are tag matches. No one really came out of this. Yeah, Teddy Long was somewhere just absolutely ridiculously happy. Out of this whole show, nothing really feels special apart from Awesome Kong, and that's most likely because she was in a singles match for a championship, as you mentioned there. There's no world championship on the line. None of the matches had any kind of championships, so it didn't really feel special. And the shockwaves of Joe's outburst wasn't all from what he said, but for really just how long he took as well. As I said there, the match is only 9.5 minutes long. It's very short for a main event. Leading up to the show, TNA officials, and this is largely taken from Wikipedia, but TNA officials began to suspect Scott Hall would not show up at the event, as the last contact with him prior to the event was earlier that morning. TNA officials soon received word from Hall that he was suffering from food poisoning, not alcohol poisoning, and would not be able to attend. And as a result of the no-show, officials approached Samoa Joe and asked him to help take blame off the company for Hall's no-show and to help promote talent in TNA by giving the announcement before introducing Eric Young as Hall's replacement. Joe's announcement went 5 minutes longer than it was originally meant to, which upset a lot of people in TNA. At one point during the announcement, he asks the person off screen, which I mentioned who it was, because he didn't care. He was legitimately pissed off. And after the event went off air, there basically an argument broke out between Kevin Nash and Joe backstage. The next night, TNA held an emergency meeting and announced that anyone unhappy with their job could void their contract with the company. And the only person who took them up was Senshi, who basically just went, "Yep, I'm alright, I'm out of here." So during the meeting, Samoa Joe apologised to everyone for his actions at the event. And due to Joe's rant at Turning Point, TNA created a storyline in which Joe was unhappy with his position in the company. Fast forwarding a little bit to January 3rd, episode of Impact, Jim Cornette, who was the management director at TNA at the time, announced that Joe and Nash would team up to challenge for the TNA World Tag Team Championships at Final Resolution. At the event, Nash abandons Joe, causing him to fight both AJ and Tomko before suffering to defeat in the sort of the match. After this, Joe and Nash began an actual partnership in which Nash tried to help Joe deal with his issues over the way he was treated by TNA and secured him a new contract. Joe was soon given a TNA World Heavyweight Championship match at TNA's Lockdown pay-per-view event, which is one of the larger ones they do every year in February. And at Lockdown, Joe defeats Angle in a 6 sides of steel cage match to win the championship. So it sort of worked out overall for Samoa Joe for his little outburst and stuff, but it certainly pissed off a lot of people and probably soured Samoa Joe to perhaps some of the older sort of legends, I guess, who weren't there through any fault of their own. They were just there because, well, they got paid money and somebody asked them to come along and take a paycheck. So yeah. So that's the show. That's the show and the recap of the show. I think I said it was a 3-star match at the end for me overall as well.
What would you rate the whole show out of 10?
Oh, out of 10, it's probably a 5. It's elevated slightly by the Gail Kim and the Samoa Joe promo / reality of that sort of whole situation. I could maybe go a 6, but I think a 5 probably sounds about right to me. What about yourself?
Oh, as I mentioned before, this was my first ever TNA, not just pay-per-view, but show that I watched from start to end. I enjoyed it. I was entertained by it. I'm going to give it a 6. And this did make me want to watch more of it from that time period. And that's why I said I'll probably renew my Impact Plus subscription in the future. I have other plans to watch other stuff in the next few months, so that's why I'll probably cancel it. But in the future, I would like to jump back into it, hopefully on this podcast or just in my free time, whenever.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, if you can, it only gets better if you go backwards in TNA. I'm afraid it doesn't get any better than this. I'm afraid.
Well, I'm really excited to watch it from. They started their official monthly pay-per-views in very late 04, I think in November, and I'm interested to watch it from that November 04 till Hogan comes. So 2009. Yeah.
Oh boy, it takes a dive once Hogan and Bischoff come into it. Let me tell you, because I was there for that. At least watching on a weekly basis.
So I guess I want to watch the whole 6-sided ring era of it.
Yes, absolutely. Before Hulk Hogan kills it, and then later on they decided that actually 6 sides sort of gives us a good definition compared to
they've gone
WWE.
back and forth many times now.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, we're gonna move on to our brand new award show, which we kind of had a little blueprint last episode, but here we actually have it all nice and organized. We have 9 categories. Hopefully it's not going to take an hour to go through it all. But I have 4 nominees for every category, which I'm going to go through, and then we're going to decide. You can choose one that's not a nominee. You can add a 5th one if you want.
Okay.
So our first category is the best entrance of the night. This is where we take like music, pyro, fan reaction, all that lighting, all that kind of stuff into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
First nominee is Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. Second nominee is Rellik. Third nominee is Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
And fourth nominee is Kurt Angle.
Okay.
And
do you want me to?
Do you want to add a fifth one?
No. I will say my nominee now. I will go for Kurt Angle. Okay. Hands down.
That's my choice too. So the winner of Best Entrance for this night is Kurt Angle.
100%, yeah.
Congrats, Kurt. All right, our next category is Best Attire. This is you're gonna laugh at this one.
Okay. Oh Jesus. Okay.
First nominee is Roxxi Laveaux. Second is your boy, the one Billy Gunn. Third nominee is Awesome Kong. She looked pretty badass. And fourth nominee is Kurt Angle.
Oh, it's Kurt Angle. He's going to get a hat trick here. Kurt Angle looks like $1 million. This is probably my favourite Kurt Angle attire. The wrestling boots or shoes and the flame sort of like tights he's got. It's just amazing. I'd say the best Kurt Angle has looked, even though he's pilled out of his mind probably at the time. In
the 2K games, I always find this attire and I download it and I give it to him. I agree. Best attire, Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Third category is the OMG, oh my god, Joey Styles Moment Award, which is Senshi landing on the top rope in that and winning the briefcase. Number 2, Don West losing his shit when Gail Kim drop kicks Awesome Kong off the top rope. Fourth nominee is Black Rain falling through the tax table. Black Rain falling through the tax table. And the fourth nominee is the Black Hole Slam on tax to Rellik.
Okay, so you've omitted the ODB Cooch stomp, and you've omitted Samoa Joe's speech. See,
well, the OMG moment I consider more like a
has to be physical.
Like a physical thing. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go for Abyss and his Black Hole Slam then. Yeah,
that's my choice as well.
The Cooch stomp and the headbutt to the Cooch should have probably, if this was Joey Styles doing it, I'm pretty sure he would have picked those.
Probably. All right, so we agree on 3 categories so far. Okay. Easy peasy. Okay, next is the LOL moment of the night, and we'll probably rename some of these categories for future episodes. But this is the comedy moment of the night. First nominee, the referee gets a wedgie from ODB. Second nominee, Kurt Angle gets mad at Borash for messing with his wife, which he did not, but Kurt doesn't know what a Kama Sutra is. Miss Jackie slapping James Storm and telling him he can't have any beer. And last nominee is Robert Roode's Psycho Fan, popping in every few minutes.
Oh, I mean, it's a toss-up between ODB and Robert Roode's Superfan, because I don't think I sold it enough earlier, but like if you're listening to this, you need to check out Bobby Roode's Superfan and these reactions. It's hilarious. I think the funniest bit was probably ODB. That entire segment. If I could take just that segment of ODB wedging the referee, and then asking the referee to spank her afterwards, I think I'd go for that.
Yeah, it's all part of the same. So I agree. Yeah. It was for me. It was between those two also, and I'm gonna agree with you and go with the ref wedgie. All right, okay. Vince Russo special of the night, aka bollocks of the night.
Yeah. Number
1, table match finish. Second nominee, the case reveals are not on this show; they're on Impact.
Yes.
The third nominee is the finish of the women's championship match, and the fourth nominee is the Scott Hall no-show. This is a tough one, I think.
I think it's going to be the Feast or Fired results aren't on this show. For me, anyway. I think it's kind of complete bait and switch. It's just like, guess look at what you could have won, and then they just take them away. So yeah, I think it's going to be that for me.
Yeah, for me, I'm like 51% towards the women's match finish, and 49% towards the case thing. But yeah, the case reveal is like major blue balls moment.
Yeah, I think the end of the women's championship match is kind of makes sense. You know, it's kind of silly that she gets DQ'd, but I think overall, like, it makes her look stronger. Like the end of that match, that she just doesn't care, and she gets lost in this kind of, because she tried to sell it at the end where she had these mad like facial features where she was like, she realized that she'd lost the match, so she lost herself in the violence. So I can sort of that, at least that's what I got out of it. Maybe I was looking too much into it, but I think that's what I would explain it away as.
Yeah, okay. Our next category, worst match of the night. First nominee is Team 3D and Johnny Devine versus Motor City Machine Guns and Jay Lethal in a tables match. Second nominee is Roxxi Laveaux and ODB versus Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. Third nominee is Feast or Fired match. And the fourth nominee is... there is no fourth nominee. I guess the 10,000 Thumbtacks match, but I personally don't think that should be nominated, but we need 4 nominees, so that's our 4 nominees.
Okay. I mean, for me it would be a tie-up between the ODB match itself, but I can't give it to them because Angelina Love and Velvet Sky did a really good job. I guess it has to be the Feast or Fired match because it's just too much. Like, it's too much. There's too many wrestlers. They could have done with 3 briefcases with 4 wrestlers or something like that. They could have done anything. But 14, I think it was. 14 wrestlers is way too much. Like, it's way too much. And it's just...
Maybe do like 8 person. That way half the participant gets something or something like that. Yeah, they had way too many.
Yeah.
Even though I gave the women's tag match the lowest score, I think it is a more memorable match. I'm going to be thinking about it and laughing in the future. But this Feast or Fired match, I already don't remember anything besides Senshi's top rope thing and Billy Gunn's outfit. So yeah, we're going to go with that. The Feast or Fired, worst match of the night. Okay. Moving on to the best match of the night. Our nominees are James Storm versus Eric Young, Awesome Kong versus Gail Kim, Bobby Roode and Christian versus Booker T and Kaz, and the main event 6-man tag.
I'm going to go for Awesome Kong versus Gail Kim. I think it's the most memorable match on the card, apart from, obviously the main offenders, but I think for me it's a traditional match. There's weight behind the match. It's introducing Kong as a new character, essentially. She hadn't been in TNA, I don't think, for very long at that time, which to me seemed apparent. She seemed like a killer. They built her up as this monster by the end of it, if you take the entire sort of segment with the beatdowns afterwards. So yeah, I'm going to say that much. It's short, so it's easy to digest, and probably the most coherent storytelling on the entire show.
This is probably the only time we're ever going to give Match of the Night to a championship match that ends in a DQ.
Yes.
Really bizarre, but I agree with you. That's my match of the night as well.
Yeah, I think that DQs can be done coherently. It's when you have a DQ match, which we saw in Armageddon, where it's like a really long match and then it ends with somebody else interfering in the match, like JBL does in that Jericho Randy match. That just needs to get in the bin because it's terrible. So yeah. I think it makes sense, the DQ in this event.
For the last 2 categories, they don't have any nominees. We can kind of just say whatever comes to our minds.
Okay.
First one is the Get the F Out of Here award. Get him off my screen.
AKA the Great Khali Award.
Yes, the Great Khali Award. He's going to win it every time he's going to be on these podcasts.
I do think that we need to rename that the Great Khali Award, because I think it just says it all. I think.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm going to change it right now. The Great Khali Award.
and it's just like it's a statue of Great Khali, but it's made out of lead or something. I gave this to Black Rain. I love Dustin Rhodes turning his life around, but I think even he might agree with me on this one that, like, if you asked him, I think he would probably say Black Rain's his worst time period, and I think that, yeah. So if Scott Hall was on the show, I'd probably say him, but as he technically wasn't on it, I don't think I can. So yeah, Black Rain.
I'm gonna give this not to a person, but to a thing.
Oh, okay.
And
is it Misty the Arctic Fox?
No, it's ODB's ass. I think we got too much of it.
I didn't know we could pick body parts for this.
It's a free-for-all. No nominees.
Okay.
Did you want to change your answer?
No, it's Black Rain. Okay.
His whole body.
It's everything. It's Black Rain, Misty the Arctic Fox, and his falling darkness or whatever, the darkness shillelagh that can get off
and
the
his
screen
wig.
too. And his wig is terrible bargain bin wig. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are our winners, and then last but not least, the main event of our categories is the most valuable player, MVP of the show. This is I have a few considerations. While you think, I'm going to tell you who I'm thinking. Kurt Angle, because he was a good performer and he was consistent throughout the show with his comedy and segments. Samoa Joe, obviously. And Eric Young for doing double duty. Those are kind of what I'm thinking.
You're right. It's a tie between Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. I think I will probably give it to... I'm gonna give it to Samoa Joe, but it's a close race, and the reason being is that this dude went above and beyond. He was asked by management to basically take the brunt of a crowd reaction to somebody no-showing the event, even though they knew he wasn't going to be there. And he did his job, and he went above and beyond, and he eventually created his own opportunity at a title. So I think that he did really well in this show. His acting, you can put it to one side, it's not great, but yeah, Kurt Angle is a very close. If I could have a tie, I'd have a tie between the two of them, but I would say Samoa Joe would get the single award if I had to have just one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Samoa Joe because of how memorable this is. And how impactful at the time it was. So yeah, Samoa Joe is my MVP. And that wraps up our first ever awards. It's going to be interesting to see. I kind of want to see how all our winners, when we do this for a whole year next December, look at all our winners and see where we end up.
Excellent. I hope you're writing them down.
Yeah, I'll have them here in our document.
Okay. Yeah, you send it through.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, we're moving into January soon. It's going to be New Year, so Happy New Year to you in advance. It's Royal Rumble season. It's the tradition in January, I guess, unless you had any other suggestions. We could even do a poll. It's up to yourself.
Russo!
I have a couple of... oh god. I do have a couple of suggestions. So, I don't know if... do you want me to suggest what I've got, and then you can chip in maybe a couple? And
Sure, I don't have any suggestions, but I can come up with some garbage, I'm pretty sure, to recommend.
Well, if we had 4 suggestions, right? Because we can only do one, really, can't we? Unless we maybe do 2 Rumbles. I don't know. But I had...
Our show, our rules. We can do whatever.
Okay, well, I had... Top of my list was, because we haven't ever looked at this period in wrestling, because I know that you had never lived through it, whereas I did, which was the early 90s. So in my mind I had Royal Rumble 1992, because it's quite memorable, and sort of going the opposite end, Royal Rumble 2000, which we've talked about in the past briefly, mainly about Taz's debut. So if you wanted to come up with a couple of suggestions, maybe we will put up a 4-way dance on our Twitter, and see what votes we get. Maybe again, I kind of like doing that.
I'm thinking of I agree. We should do at least one Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
We can actually do both if you want, because the Royal Rumble 2022 is not till January 29th, so basically the very end of the month.
Yeah.
I almost kind of want to suggest maybe a World War III show, but then I don't want to make you take so many crazy notes of that crazy ass match.
I think it's similar vein to the main event of this one, and also the Feast or Fired. It's just a case of take some brief notes, and the rest is just write itself.
Yeah, because
okay.
The WCW World War match is the closest thing to a Royal Rumble, so I was kind of thinking.
Okay, well, what year would you... If we did a Twitter poll, I think we do a Twitter poll, and we'll see what comes out, and maybe we'll do the top 1 and 2.
Maybe... I'm thinking either 96 or 98.
Okay. World War 96 and 98?
No, or 98.
Or 98. Oh, 96 or 98. Well, 96 we're going to get what? Hulk Hogan. 98 we're probably still going to get Hulk Hogan.
Well, 98, I remember it's the one that Scott Hall wins.
Let's go for 96. Let's keep it in the mid-90s then. So we've got 3 nominees at the moment. Do you want to add in another one, or are you happy with your selection?
I'm thinking, well,
let's have...
It's not really relevant, but I was going to say, since you've been wanting to do the Evolution pay-per-view, we could... And we kind of we've been postponing it till March. I was thinking maybe we could just do it now, because why not? You know,
Evolution.
Yeah, the women's show, the WWE did.
Possibly. I was gonna hopefully leave it for like the women's month.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But at the same time, I feel like it doesn't really matter. Okay. But yeah.
Oh, no, new year, new philosophy, I guess, and maybe giving a bit more time to the women would be good. So yeah, let's add that in as well. And what we'll do is we'll do a Twitter poll. I think that's the fairest assumption we can get is what would people like to hear us talk about. Okay, so our nominees are for our next episode: Royal Rumble 2000, Royal Rumble 1992, WCW World War 1996, or I think it's 2011's WWE Women's Evolution, the all-women pay-per-view event that WWE did once upon a time, and ticked a box in their HR checklist of rights for their employees and never touched it again. So there you go. I'll put that on Twitter as soon as this episode is out, and we'll take it from there. I guess last thing to do is plugs. You can follow us at WrestleBlast Podcast on Twitter. You can follow me at Lostro. And what about yourself, Andre?
Currently nowhere to follow, but I am going to be working on a new wrestling-oriented YouTube channel, which is where I'll post a lot of stuff. We're going to share it all through our Twitter. So follow us on the WrestleBlast Twitter, and we'll let you know from there what else to follow.
There you go. Goodbye from me.
Peace out.